Hey guys, it's Biggs. Welcome back. Today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different. I know I say it all the time, but today's a little bit different. I keep seeing the same comment periodically popping up in my feeds and social media. People are asking what I call a dumb question. And it'll be a question like, hey, I just got this giant tank. What's the absolute cheapest filter I could buy for my giant aquarium? Well, today we're going to tackle that question. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some different types of filters. We're going to talk about what works, what's best, and we're going to talk about the word cheap. Stay tuned. If you're as fascinated as I am by the incredible diversity of life that surrounds us in this wonderful and often bizarre natural world, then you really belong here with me. I make videos on all facets of nature, from aquariums and vivariums, DIY projects, reptiles, isopods, insects, and arachnids, all sorts of unique plants, and I try to dig a little bit deeper into the science behind it all. So if you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as well as ringing that little notification bell, and you'll always be kept up to date when I upload new content. So I thought if we're going to talk about filtration and such, I'm going to may as well do something a little bit different, get out of the basement, and I'm down at my buddy's shop. This is a giant wholesale operation in Canada, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. He's been a friend of mine for years, and he runs this large wholesale operation. So right now it's safe, he's not open today, so it's basically just me, he's up at the front, and I thought I'd wander around and kind of give you guys a little bit of discussion about filters. Everybody knows about different types of filters that are available. You got everything from the old school box filters, sponge filters for fish breeding. Remember the old undergravel filter plates from days gone by, you know? And then there's all these over the back type, like the different types of Cascades and Aqua Clears and different types. There's a myriad of different types of those. The bio wheels, canister filters, but maybe there's other types of filters that people aren't even thinking about, which they could use in their fish tanks. So I don't know, let's start talking about some of them, and then we're gonna get into the word cheap. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of drives me a little crazy when I see comments like that all the time, and they come up all the time. The aquarium hobby is generally a fairly affordable hobby for people to get into, so that's, in that regard, that's really, really good. But we do have to take into consideration that no matter what fish we decide to keep, no matter what size tank we decide to have, we are going to be infinitely responsible for the life of that animal for its entire life. So we want to make sure that we want to give it the absolute best that we can for its living conditions and its health. Now, the word cheap is not something I think should ever come up in discussion when we're talking about something like that. What is the filter for the aquarium? Well, essentially, it's the life support system. I don't know, if I was on death row and I needed life support system to keep me alive, I don't know if the word cheap would come up. I'm not saying, you know, hey, I need a new heart. I need a heart transplant. What doctor can do that the cheapest? Let's send out and get some quotes. Maybe you want to go get a tattoo. You're going to look for the cheapest tattoo artist to do the work for you? Or do you want somebody that can actually do some real quality work and safely and healthy? So when we talk about the word cheap, I don't think it should apply to this. Honestly though, there are economical methods in where we can filter our aquarium efficiently. Now for me, my personal preferences may be different than yours. Now I've been breeding fish for most of my life, so I've kept a myriad of sizes of tanks. I've got everything from down little gallon jars all the way up to 1,000-gallon monster tanks and stuff. Now, depending on the type of fish that I'm going to be keeping, the needs of the filtration are going to be different for each one. If you're keeping a nice small community tank, say a 20, 30, 50-gallon community tank, any one of the commercially made filters, be it a canister or an over-the-back hanging filter, so any of those are going to be nice and efficient for you, and they'll make a nice clean environment, but they'll also be aesthetically pleasing in the fact that you're not going to see a lot of stuff in the tank other than the naturescape and the fish that you've put in it. But for me, when I've kept fish, I'm a big fan of old school filtration. I'm a big fan of massive filters, over filtering, and these two big tanks that are beside me here, these two tanks are filtered by a very, very large scale, custom built Trickle filter system. And Trickle filter is also known as a wet-dry system, and those are by far my favorites. Now they don't have the same easy application for most small homes unless you're willing to drill, install a overflow box or something like that. They do take some different measures than setting up a normal aquarium, but a Trickle filter, they can truly be one of the absolute most efficient mechanical and biological filters. And because the media is called a wet-dry filter, that means the media for the filter is actually removed from the water column, being the dry part, and the water trickles through it. So you get a lot more potential for oxygen saturation of the water. And for me, when I keep big fish like this sort of stuff, big Central American, big bruisers, big fish produce big waste. Big filters are important. Water quality is important. And we'll talk about it in a bit. Not only your considerations for your filter are important, but you also have to have considerations in regards to your personal schedule and how you're planning on maintaining those fish. Because no matter what filter you choose, it's never going to alleviate the actual needs for doing water changes. Now, these tanks have been set up for about 7-8 months now, but when we originally set them up, obviously the filters, the Trickle filters, everything was brand new and sterile. So he used a couple of existing canister filters, but this canister filter you could fill with whatever media of choice. So these were nice, established, ready to go, so he's put those on, and he leaves them running on the tanks in the event that he's going to need them for future, for somewhere else he can take that off, because the systems that are running now, these large wet-dry filters, he's filled them again also with the Hamburg Matten filters. He starts off with coarse, and it progressively gets finer as it goes down, and then the water is pumped back up. And in not only each of these one, there's a second tower for each tank. And each one of these units is probably holding, at the base it's probably holding about 100 gallons. These look to be about the 4x2 size, and height looks to be about 3 feet height, but the water, as you can see, is down low. And that's to make sure that there's good oxygen penetration through the whole thing. Keeping that oxygen level in the aquarium is healthier for the fish. So when you look at it from behind, you can see here's the overflows here. So water is brought to the system here, down, piping goes directly to the systems right there. That's one of the filters. There's the other tower filter for the other tank. You see it's got drains on either side because of the size of the tank. We put drains on either side, and then the returns come up, and the returns are brought to the tank here. And both are done. It's a very simple system. Trickle filtration, or wet-dry filtration, is a system of fish water maintenance that's been used for long time in water treatment in municipal systems in places all over the world. So using it in this type of system for fish, if you understand the basics of water chemistry, it's an incredible system. But you asked for cheap. As I said, cheap isn't the right word. Economical is probably the better word. If you have a standard, nice-sized tank, and you want to filter it really efficiently, and you're willing to be diligent with your water changes, and a normal size load on the tank, and maybe you're not dealing with monster fish, then I think it'd be hard-pressed to beat a large piece of Hamburg mat filter. You can build it where it fits into a wall of a tank. You could put little glass baffles and silicone in place and make a corner unit out of it, and they're all air-driven with an airlift tube behind it. But basically, it's taking, instead of just a sponge filter like I showed you earlier, it's going to take the entire tank and turn one whole wall into a biological system. Easy to maintain, and I'm going to show you in a moment. This is my buddy's full commercial warehouse, as well as several other large-scale commercial warehouses, fish warehouses all over the world, notably in Europe, as well as other ones in the States, are running their entire operations using this type of filtration. Here you can see that filter working its capacity. Here's those jet lifter tubes running by air driven. And you can see it's got exceptional flow. And it makes this entire wall of the aquarium a large filter. Can handle extremely large loads of fish. So here you have it. You're running a commercial system or a massive fish room in your basement. You got hundreds of tanks. Maybe you only got 50 tanks. Maybe you only have 5. Doesn't really matter. But if you're running and you want to run and breed fish, this is what we're using on the commercial side. Works really well. It's definitely got my nod, my thumbs up for most efficient filter. At an economical price tag. Filter is only good as the maintenance that you're going to be willing to do yourself. These are the manifolds and the passive drains for every single tank in this system. Every single tank is drilled with a bulkhead fitting and a manual drain that takes the water, the wastewater, right to the floor drains. And the floor drains are honestly in this warehouse are all over the floor. So each system, as you can see, it may look complicated on camera, but it's actually a very simple system. Water is brought by those small black lines directly to every single aquarium. It's all on an automated system. Water goes to each tank. Any excess water overflows, goes down these pipes here, down these pipes to the drains, and is taken away. And water is balanced and maintained by the height. You want to buy a cheaper filter? Buy a cheaper filter. Want to keep your fish healthy? Maybe a bit more consideration in regards to the fact that these are lives we are responsible for. And give the fish that you want to keep the best that you can. Definitely not saying you want to put a second mortgage on your house and go and set up the most state-of-the-art system. You can make do with something that's fairly economical, but it's going to be up to you to do the water changes, do the maintenance, and make sure that they've got the best environment, the best life possible. Well, there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Something a little bit different, but I think it was a topic that needed to be addressed. You know, we're responsible for these guys if we bring them into our homes. Let's give them the absolute best life we possibly can. They are truly pets. They're truly wonderful creatures. So with that, my friends, stay safe. We'll see you next time. Take care.